SpaceX is offering AI compute as a service. I've heard people say like it's EWS, Elon Web Services or whatever.
Yep. They're creating a SpaceX AI division as well, and getting $1.25 billion a month from maybe your future competitor. It's pretty smart, man.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Agents Hour. I'm Shane. I'm one of the co-founders of Mastra. I'm here with Abhi. What's up, dude?
What up?
He's also one of the co-founders of Mastra. If you are not tuning in live and you're watching after the fact on either YouTube or X or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, thank you. And give us that 5-star review while you're there. Like, subscribe, do all the things. Like always, there's a lot of news. There's a lot of drama. So this one we're calling the Unlikely AI Cast because first, the Pope says the Church and Anthropic will work together to find the way for humanity in this time of artificial intelligence. The Pope never endorsed Anthropic, but I think even that it's on the Pope's radar is interesting, right? It's expanding beyond the tech borders maybe a bit. I did see someone have a joke post that said that like God joins Anthropic as member of technical staff or something. You know, it's like people are just like Anthropic is on a tear. They're on everyone's radar. Who's Kyle Kuzma? For those that don't know,
this one is actually weirder than the Pope. Kyle Kuzma is a basketball player. He plays for the Wizards now. He used to play on the Lakers when we won a championship in 2020. Since his basketball career is not going so well, let's just say, he's become an investor, and he's specifically investing in AI, specifically defense tech. And so he posted this. He's probably going to go on TBPN, at least that's what he's planning, and he had a direct shout to Sam Altman on, trying to bring back American dynamism. And he's making angel investments. He's trying to get into like the investing world. A lot of celebrities do this, right? Once they get some money. Like Jake Paul invested in Modal, for example. Like that is interesting. Shaq invested in Replit, right? Like these are like these notable figures, let's say, that are investing in AI companies. So yeah, Kyle Kuzma is part of it now. You should use Mastra, Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle, come on. Andrej Karpathy said, personal update. I've joined Anthropic. I think the next few years at the frontier of LLMs will be especially formative. I'm very excited to join the team here and get back to R&D. I remain deeply passionate about education and plan to resume my work on it in time. This post got 27.1 million views.
I don't know how I feel about it, though.
I think what we're seeing is it's no longer just if you have the best model. It's also like there's a team, there's hype. Of course, Karpathy's going to do amazing work. He's obviously super talented, but he's also a big name as well. So I think you get both, right? You get someone who actually can solve real problems, and you get to basically show to the world that you have the smartest, some of the smartest people and well-known people in the space working for you.
Should we show the Office clip?
Pull it up. We should show it. And for reference, there was a tweet that went out where someone used, I think it was Seed Dance, but some of the video tools that are possible and remade kind of an Office clip on, this concept.
All right, everyone. I'd like you to meet somebody. This is Andrej Karpathy, Stanford PhD, co-founder of OpenAI. Ran Tesla Autopilot, meaning he literally taught cars to see. And the man who coined the term vibe coding.
I heard he's earning 6 figures per hour. I am happy for him. Like, really happy.
Greg Brockman had a tweet, the model alone is no longer the product. What does this actually mean?
The FUD in me saying that maybe models are going to hit a plateau, or they already are, and it's everything else that goes alongside the model that becomes more important. So maybe, waiting for the next model is not wise anymore. That's one interpretation.
Yeah, I think it's an argument for the framework, the harness, the tools around the model, the platform around the model. I did say that before, that I thought we were hitting a wall, and then there were some interesting things that came out. So maybe I'll be wrong again. But I do think that performance increases are slowing a little bit since, I know it doesn't seem like that long ago at this point, but November, that was like 6 months ago, which is a long time in AI time. 6 months without a huge leap.
And you can see in the market what everybody's doing, right? We have managed agents from every model lab. We have coding agents from every model lab. And, Gemini is using Antigravity, which we'll talk about, Codex from OpenAI, Claude from Anthropic, They all have managed agents products, and maybe they'll all have agent runtimes and everything like that. These are all the things that are around the model.
And Carlos says the same model on different harnesses are performing differently.
Yep.
So the harness does matter.
If model development stopped for whatever reason today, there's still so much progress to be made, right? Like there's just so much we could build still.
In some ways, for those that are building, there's a benefit. The foundation is less shaky, so you know what's possible. Where before, it felt like you could maybe build ahead of the models and eventually the models would catch up, but maybe not. You don't know.
Yeah.
And if it does slow down, that doesn't mean the end is near. It just means that now we know the types of things we can actually accomplish. So let's go do it. Some news from OpenAI. First, this was an announcement from Tyler at YC, a mic drop moment at Y Combinator tonight. Sam Altman just offered $2 million in OpenAI tokens to every YC startup in the current batch in exchange for equity. I think it was like 2%. I don't know the exact details. Sam Altman responded, I am excited to see what will happen when token maxing startups, both for how they work internally and the products they can build. That's pretty wild. Like we were in YC. We didn't get this deal. I don't know if we would have taken it. I don't know what the deal terms were. If it's use it whenever you want in your lifetime, that's different than a lot of YC deals are like you got to use it in a certain time frame. That's one way to get the tech startups using your product.
Yeah, that's one way the Game of Thrones can move in your favor, for sure. I mean, they gave us credits too, but it wasn't $2 million. And honestly, we got the credits for free, but it was like $30K.
Yeah, which is great.
I think we burned it in a year, but we were doing some stupid stuff with it. So I don't think we would have taken this deal, though.
Yeah, I don't think so. But I think a lot of people should. Let's talk about auth.md, an open protocol for agents. So Michael Greenwich from WorkOS, he was on the show a couple weeks back. Today, WorkOS is launching auth.md, an open protocol for agents to register for services on the web. We're partnering with Cloudflare and Firecrawl as some of the first providers. I also saw Resend as a provider. We got approval. We're not a provider yet, but we will be. What did you think of this?
One, I think this is a great idea. It's a spec for agents to essentially sign up for your product and authenticate with it. I think it's great for WorkOS because if you're using AuthKit, which WorkOS has created, it's going to be a natural integration. So you actually won't have to do much for an agent to leverage this. So I think from that perspective, it's great. And then also it was released at MCP night. So in a mic drop, great event situation. So all those things put together, it's a really good launch for them. I'm super stoked to use it, though I don't know how fruitful it'll be for us, but it's good to be part of it.
Let's talk about some of the Chinese model companies and things that are going on over there. So DeepSeek had this announcement of a 75% off discount. And then they eventually just came out and said, you know what, we're going to make this thing permanent. So you can have DeepSeek V4 Pro for 75% off their already incredibly cheap price. It is wild how cheap it is.
I think someone was also showing that they spent 1 billion tokens for $9. That is amazing. And DeepSeek V4 is good.
And just saying how they did it, there's this open source KV cache size calculator, which this person ran on DeepSeek. And you could just tell that's one of the reasons they can offer it so cheaply. Right? They're just great at caching. Qwen 3.7 Max has been announced. It's very competitive with some of the other models that are out there, especially the open models, or the Chinese models, I guess. So if you look at it compared to DeepSeek, GLM, Kimi 2.6, and then it compares it against Opus 4.6. And it does outperform Opus 4.6 on quite a bit of the benchmarks. This is a post that says something big is coming, MiniMax sparse attention. I am no expert on what sparse attention is, but essentially is a way where it can get more linear rather than more exponential, like latency cost profiling. So you can make things for much cheaper. So tokens should be a lot cheaper and be able to scale much better. So very interesting. The Chinese model labs are innovating. They're catching up. It feels like they're still a bit behind, but it's kind of shocking how good they're starting to get.
Dude, did you subscribe?
Dude, I host the show. Did you subscribe?
Did you subscribe?
Subscribe to Agents Hour every Monday, noon Pacific. Let's talk about Anthropic SpaceX. We mentioned this what was it, last week, 2 weeks ago, I lose track of the deal. So Elon came out and said, as the recently expanded partnership with Anthropic demonstrates, SpaceX is offering AI compute as a service at significant scale. I've heard people say like it's EWS, Elon Web Services or whatever.
Yep.
Elon says they're in discussions with other companies to do the same. So over time, especially with orbital data centers, we expect to serve AI at extremely high scale. Tom Brown says we're expanding our partnership with SpaceX and will be scaling up on GB200 capacity in Colossus 2 throughout June. And Anthropic is paying $1.25 billion a month to SpaceX for compute right now. It's wild.
Dude, EWS about to make some money, man.
Elon Web Services is in business.
I also saw like a post from it was from Elon about SpaceX, but they're creating a SpaceX AI division as well, much like XAI. I mean, all this stuff is going to be collapsed into one SpaceX behemoth, and getting $1.25 billion a month from maybe your future competitor. It's pretty smart, man. It's just pretty smart.
What's wild is like, you kind of always bundle all of Elon's properties together and it feels like it just should be one. But SpaceX and XAI could win even if they don't win the model game.
Yep.
Right? Building out the data centers is maybe even more valuable or arguably as valuable as actually just having the best models. Let's talk about coding agent benchmarks. So this is from Serena G. It says, today we're releasing DeepSWE, a new standard for agentic coding benchmarks. On public leaderboards, top models often look relatively close in capability. DeepSWE or DeepSWE, I don't know how you pronounce it or how you want to, but DeepSWE shows where they actually diverge, reflecting the realistic experience of developers in their day-to-day work. So I think it's just built to be a bit more of like a more difficult benchmark. And you can see here that GPT-5.5 and 5.4 are the best two models. Now again, this is just one benchmark, but it does show a huge gap between GPT-5.5 and 5.4 and Opus 4.7 and the rest.
Well, the good thing about this benchmark, as opposed to like Terminal Bench, is it's a little bit more realistic. Terminal Bench is kind of random, let's say. The type of things there are kind of software engineering problems, but they're not like practical. And maybe that's fine. But for DeepSWE, some of the problems are like using actual tools like Ansible or Chef to go and do an actual like goal. And then they like tested all the trajectories for each model to see how well it can go there. And I just thought that was super interesting because it is very realistic. Like we use coding agents to do things with tools that may exist, right? Deploy something, do like that. We're not writing like for loops and like doing some like computer science problems.
All right, CursorBench 3.1 came out and it says we evaluate agents on ambiguous multi-file tasks from real cursor sessions. Higher scores are better. So you can see average cost per task and a graph that also shows the score. Opus 4.7 Max scores a 65%, which is great. But Composer 2.5 scores a, 63, 64, somewhere in there, but at a fraction of the cost. So it is kind of interesting to see performance on a cost curve, not just a performance curve. I would love to actually see that on DeepSWE. Like, what did this run cost?
Cursor is putting cost into consideration because, it's becoming an axis that people are starting to care about. Especially if subsidies go away, you have to pay for Claude Agent SDK, etc. Then price becomes part of the equation. You can't just be running Opus for everything in production. You just run out of money, But, Cursor SDK exists. There are other models that exist. So I would figure more people are going to talk about cost, except for Frontier Labs, because this thing's getting expensive,
Let's talk about Anthropic. And as always, Anthropic ships.
As always.
So this is a segment that's recurring. Claude launched self-hosted sandboxes, MCP tunnels as a research preview in Claude managed agents. So you can run agents inside your own perimeter with your security controls applied by default. Anthropic shipped. So this is what one was interesting because they shipped /workflows in Claude Code and then they pulled it back or something.
Well, they shipped it in the changelog.
They shipped in the changelog. But it wasn't actually in.
It was not in.
Is it in yet? Did they actually release it yet?
No.
Yeah, I think it's coming, or maybe not, but it was an omission or an error in the changelog, right? That they announced it and then they pulled it back. So does that mean it's still coming? Does that mean they changed their mind? I don't know. Essentially, workflows replaces the LLM orchestrator with code. So you can define a workflow file. Code handles the control flow. The model only handles judgment. It's very similar to kind of controlling the the flow a bit more and letting the LLM only decide certain parts rather than letting the LLM decide exactly how the flow should happen.
AK, what we have.
Boris says, in the next version of Claude Code, run /usage to see a breakdown of which skills, agents, MCPs, and plugins are using your tokens. So that's good if you're using skills and other things. Again, you want to know usage and then probably how this usage taps into cost, right? Claude said, we shipped a security guidance plugin for Claude Code that helps identify and fix vulnerabilities as you're writing code. So it's available for all Claude Code users. Install the plugin from the plugin marketplace. Try to prevent security issues. So Google had a good week. This came out, May 19th. Gemini 3.5 Flash pricing is a 3x increase over Gemini 3 Flash, which is interesting. It's way more expensive for what you'd say is it should be the same line of models, right? You're comparing it to the old Flash. Why is the new Flash 3 times more expensive? Theo, he's going to have some opinions. He said 3.5 Flash is an interesting release. It's super fast and surprisingly smart. It's also more expensive and super token hungry. So it costs 2 times more to run than Gemini 3.1 Pro on similar tasks. It's also more expensive than GPT-5.5 Medium. Gemini Omni was announced May 19th. This is from Logan Kilpatrick. It says Omni is our new model that can create anything from any input, starting with video. Think Nano Banana, but for video. Available in the Gemini app, Flow, and YouTube with API support coming soon. Available in YouTube is interesting. We'll be getting even more AI videos on YouTube, but it got some hate. JS Films says Google promised that Gemini Omni Flash would change the game, but when you put it side by side with CDance 2.0, it's not even a fair fight. Fingers crossed for VO4. And if you look at this, the CDance one is way better. Now, was this? I have questions. Was it one-shotted? All that. But if you do just look at these two videos, the CDance one's very impressive. The Omni Flash one is got a lot of physics irregularities, I'll just say.
Yeah, it's like playing a PlayStation 1 game.
Jack Wotherspoon on May 19th said, say hello to Antigravity CLI. Written in Go for a snappy feel. Available with Gemini 3.5 Flash today. Built for async workflows and sub-agents. Same tools and app server as Antigravity 2.0. Get started and install it today. Is this going to replace the Gemini CLI?
I have a feeling it is, and maybe it already has.
The question is, why? I'm assuming Antigravity CLI is meant to be better. This feels like it's very much the same product line. I've heard rumblings that Gemini CLI is going away.
Maybe 2 teams at Google were working on the same thing, and this is the winner.
Antigravity won the bake-off. Philip says, I'm excited to introduce managed agents in the Gemini API. One API call gives you full agent with code execution, web browsing, and file management in an isolated sandbox. Powered by Gemini 3.5 Flash and Google's anti-gravity harness. More managed agents. We were talking about it earlier. Logan Kilpatrick announced on May 19th, today we are starting to roll out the biggest upgrade to Google search box in over 25 years, now completely reimagined with AI, along with Gemini 3.5 Flash as the new default model for AI mode users globally. Seems expensive.
I actually used this last night with Google Search because I was just trying to find a place to eat. And instead of search results, I hit the search with my question and then it became a Gemini chat. I got search results out of it, but my experience was completely different. It was not me scrolling stuff. It was me asking questions and then it finding the right thing, which were then Google search results and Google map results, which was exactly what I wanted. Like, where is this place? Boom, got the map link. Super sick.
Yeah, nice.
Super sick.
Google also released open source distributed agent runtime, agent executor.
It's pretty cool. I mean, just your typical thing.
Yeah, it's like trying to be like an orchestration, right? Between like a router, an agent, and your environment. Let's talk about Composer 2.5. We previewed it a little bit in the benchmarks. This was on May 18th, introducing Composer 2.5, our most powerful model yet. It's more intelligent, better at sustained work on long-running tasks, and more reliable at following complex instructions. For the next week, we're doubling the included usage of the model. And I do wonder if this is part of the Cursor SpaceX deal where maybe Cursor's now using Colossus and doing some training, and they're getting a lot of gains out of that. Let's talk about the supply chain attacks quickly. This is a segment every week, so we're just going to go through it really fast. Breaking. Socket is investigating an active NPM supply chain attack. This was on May 18th. The malicious publish wave appears tied to Mini Shai-Hulud in packages connected to the NPM maintainer account A-tool. And then another on, this is May 24th, breaking active supply chain attack across NPM, PyPy, and crates, IO. Socket detected Trapdoor, a crypto stealer campaign hitting 34 malicious packages and 384 versions and artifacts. So this was really targeted more at crypto, DeFi, but some AI stuff
And
as
the wallet packages, unfortunately.
This was on May 21st, so a few days before. The Megalodon campaign is live. 5,718 malicious commits to 5,561 GitHub repository in a 6-hour window. And GitHub on May 19th said, we're investigating unauthorized access to GitHub's internal repositories. That's not cool.
That's not cool.
And this is related to security, but just an interesting read if you all are curious on Mythos and one more practical guide on like what Mythos was able to do. So Cloudflare had this post on their blog that says Cloudflare's security team spent the last few weeks testing Anthropic's Mythos against 50 of our own repositories. What we learned about offensive AI, why faster patching is the wrong reaction, and what the architecture around vulnerabilities has to look like next.
Dude, it was so cool reading this because I was at a dinner weeks ago where I met someone from Cloudflare who told me about this. And I was like, oh, yeah, right. And then I read the thing. I'm like, oh, wow. They weren't full of shit at all.
So what was the main takeaways? 2
main takeaways from that conversation. And I don't want to put any words in his mouth, but like, you should assume that you're always being attacked. So once you are assuming that your system is always being attacked every day, it changes how you look at security. So that's one thing. And using adversarial AI to simulate attacks so you're always being attacked and you don't necessarily have to tell anyone that you're doing that keeps your team on their toes. You create new practices and you create better security overall. And the problem I guess most companies have is you don't think you're being attacked, or you only do when you could discover it. But so much malicious stuff is happening, especially if you're Cloudflare and you power the whole web, let's say. You have to assume bad actors are already doing something that you don't know about, and that's okay.
Yeah.
All the time. And then you could read more about this. Yeah, they have Mythos for a while, so that's pretty cool.
Perplexity on May 22nd said, today we're open sourcing Bumblebee, a read-only scanner for macOS and Linux. It checks developer machines for risky packages, extensions, and AI tool configs. Connected to a computer, it can trigger deeper scans whenever a new supply chain risk emerges. So a way to maybe be a bit reactionary, but almost like the new antivirus. NVIDIA shipped on May 21st, NVIDIA verified agent skills. Skills make your agent more capable, but also can introduce vulnerabilities. Verified skills give you transparency into what a skill does, where it came from, what risks it carries, and whether it's been modified.
This is dope.
Each verified skill carries a skill card and is built on the agentskills.io open specification to work reliably across Claude, OpenAI, Codex, Cursor.
We need this in skills.sh.
Yeah.
That'd be a really nice addition.
Yeah, we should get that. That would be great if it was there. All right, let's talk about MCP. This was on May 22nd. The release candidate for MCP 2026, July 28th, is out. The protocol is now stateless, no handshake, no session ID. Any request can hit any server instance, plus extensions as first-class MCP apps, tasks, auth hardening, and a proper deprecation policy, so we don't have to do this again. So yeah, they're deprecating some things. But if you want to know what's going on in the spec, go ahead and read this post. It goes into way more details. Let's talk about voice, music, and video. ElevenLabs says on May 26th, today we are launching Music V2, which is good because we tested against Suno and it failed.
V1 sucked.
They probably saw the show and they're like, okay, we got to release V2 now. Better vocals, instrumentation, and arrangement across every genre. Improved multilingual support, plus capabilities that weren't possible before. We'll put it through the test. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll try it out next week.
Yeah, we'll give it the Suno test and see if it stacks up better this time. Last time it was, okay, but definitely, inferior to what Suno had.
I didn't even think it was okay, so hopefully it's better.
I mean, if you told me 2 years ago that this was possible, I would have been like, dang.
Okay, yeah,
But
true.
but compared to what exists, it's definitely behind. But maybe V2 is better. ElevenLabs on May 20th announced they introduced Speech Engine. Developers can now turn their existing chat agent into a full voice agent with one prompt. Speech Engine combines our leading speech, transcription, and voice orchestration models into a single pipeline, all custom built to work best together. Runway on May 21st says, Aleph 2.0 is here. Now you can edit a single frame in your video, preview the change, and then Aleph 2.0 carries that edit across the rest of your video. So that's pretty cool. And I think Runway seems like a good model, but maybe their models are a little bit behind last time I checked. But being able to modify a frame mid-frame, regenerate it, reconfigure it, and then have the video continue from there is pretty cool. It's going to allow AI video editing to be much better.
I feel like Runway does like innovative things, but then like the other models like copy them and then have like a more of a fully featured set. They're always like the first one to do something cool, you know?
Yeah, I mean, they were the OGs, right? They're some of the original video editing, video AI I did was on Runway. All right, let's talk about layoffs, raises, and the industry around the models. On May 18th, Accenture lays off over 11,000 employees in an $865 million AI-driven restructuring. More layoffs, more people blaming AI, which feel bad for the employees, but it is something we're seeing a lot. The question I always have is how much is it because of AI? I think there's a part of it, but a lot of it is, I think AI is also the scapegoat. It's now like the easy scapegoat. Everything you can just blame AI.
Yeah, like if you wanted to do layoffs right now, but you didn't have a good reason, just say AI.
I do honestly feel that way. It's hard to cut through, is this just messaging or is it really because of AI? And I think there's probably a bit of both, right? There probably is. You hired people for roles that you can now get, maybe you had 50 people and maybe 20 people can do that same job because they have some better tools. Doesn't mean that that job's not valuable. It's just that you can be more, be more productive than before. Exa raised $250 million in Series C funding at a $2.2 billion valuation led by A16Z. Exa is a search lab organizing the web's data for agents.
They just raised their B not too long ago, so business must be good.
Business is booming. OpenRouter announced on May 26th that they raised $113 million Series B, led by Capital GVC. Over the last 6 months, weekly volume on OpenRouter grew from 5 trillion to 25 trillion tokens in 6 months. So they 5x'd in 6 months as AI rapidly shifts from experimentation into production. That's wild.
That and they have more models that people want to use now.
Now we're going to rapid fire. Browserbase introduced browse.sh, the largest open source catalog of skills to reliably perform any task on the internet. We've researched hundreds of sites to give your agents the playbook they need to navigate the web. This is from Creatify AI on May 18th, introducing Creatify Agent, the world's first multi-agent orchestrator that makes viral ads without AI slop. Drop an ad idea below and we'll build it for you. I was just shocked. There's a lot of these different ad creators. I've seen a lot of really cool demos. 4.4 million views on this, though, is quite a bit. So it obviously captured people's attention, which is, I think it's just very visual. Cerebras is now running Kimi K 2.6, a trillion parameter model in enterprise trials. At 1,000 tokens per second, this is the fastest frontier model performance ever measured by artificial intelligence. And it's not close.
Also, Cerebras did IPO, right, on May 14th. So you can actually buy stock here.
This is not investment advice.
This is not investment advice at all. But you can buy some stock in Cerebras. They have some stuff in cahoots with other people. So
Linear announced new Project Slack channels. Linear can now automatically spin up a dedicated Slack channel whenever new Linear project is created. Linear is trying to do a lot of stuff. This is just a point release for them, but tying in their Slack channels with agents, I think it's all going to connect. And my speculation is, Linear and Notion are on a collision course.
Yep.
Everyone wants to own some kind of coding agents. Linear kind of is well equipped because your tasks are there, and there are a lot of times those are coding tasks. But it'll be interesting. I think Slack's also the surface area that people are using for a lot of this stuff. We're going to talk about PRs and PR reviews for a bit. So there's this diffs hub. Take any public diff from GitHub and virtualize it nearly instantly, no matter how large. It's a way to review code. Another way to review code is to use the cursor skill thermonuclear code quality review, which is, a skill you can go take a look at it. It apparently deletes complexity instead of moving it, blocks files over 1,000 lines, flags thin wrappers and leaked logic, rejects PRs that work but make code messier.
Yeah, I would just use Mastra Code's critique PR skill instead.
Yeah, it's about the same thing. But, I think the concept of having a self PR review skill that you run before you ask CodeRabbit or another agent to run it, or before you send it over to a teammate, doing it locally is a good idea. A lot of people are trying to solve the code review problem, or the AI generated code is easier to ship. More PRs are getting stuck in review because you have more complex PRs. It's hard to read the code you don't fully understand. So Stage is a code review platform designed to help engineers understand AI-generated code. Your team is drowning in an endless backlog of PRs. Stage Review app turns code review into a guided process and enables you to review changes faster than using GitHub. This is a problem. I liked CodeRabbit's solution, Atlas. That's a cool way to tackle it. Haven't tried out Stage, but I'm interested. I think this is a problem that needs to be solved. You still need human review. Now we're on the path of how do we optimize to make human review easier, for it easier to digest the code. Zed announced on May 20th, terminal threads are live in Zed. You can now run Claude, AMP, Pi, or any terminal-based workflow as a managed thread in the threads sidebar. Looks kind of like Superset.
Superset-esque.
Very similar. So this was on May 19th. New from Datadog, it's Lapdog. Ever wondered what your AI agent was actually doing? Our latest free project runs locally and traces reasoning and tool calls in Codex, Claude Code, and Pi. You can now see what your agent is really doing live. I would be curious if you're listening to this, do you care? Do you want to see more observability into what Claude Code or Codex or whatever coding agent you use is actually doing?
I think if you're running it for a third-party person, you do. But if you're running it for yourself, you probably don't.
Yeah, you just care about is it in my max plan or not?
Yeah.
If it's covered by my max plan, I don't care what it costs, just do the job. So on May 26th, this is from Kushal Gatnell. Over 1 billion PDFs are created every day, but your agents still can't read them reliably. So they released Parse 2.0, the most accurate document parsing API in the world. It's always interesting. A lot of data is in PDFs and documents. And so I think anytime there's new improvements in just document parsing, it's cool to talk about. If you're trying to parse PDFs, you're having trouble, maybe this will help. Yeah. It is apparently state-of-the-art quality on Real Doc Bench, but it's their open source benchmark, which, of course, they're going to be leading on their benchmark. Take it into consideration, but it's pretty cool. OpenAI said on May 20th, today we share a breakthrough on a planar unit distance problem, a famous open question first proposed by Paul Erdos in 1946. For nearly 80 years, mathematicians believed the best possible solution looked roughly like square grids. An OpenAI model has now disproved that belief, discovering an entirely new family of constructions that performs better. This marks the first time AI has autonomously solved a prominent open problem central to the field of mathematics. I feel like that's not the first time, though. Isn't there like other math problems that, and maybe it's it's because it's prominent and it's an open problem. I don't know.
We had to learn this in school. It's just like a thought-provoking mathematical question, because you want, I don't know, I can go into it, but like on a Euclidean plane, you want to make sure that two pairs only have a distance of 1. And, I guess OpenAI solved it.
This is from Shenxi Ding on May 26th, introducing Merge Gateway. Build your own router. You're 3 sprints into your coding assistant. You pick the most hyped model, integrate, test, deploy. A month later, a new model drops. Now you retest, reintegrate, redeploy. Your product didn't change, but the benchmark did. That's how most AI teams operate. So it's eventually allows you to build your own model with Merge API. It's like an OpenRouter, right?
I mean, we have a dark history with Merge. I mean, I personally do. I don't like their product because they charge an arm and a leg for something that should be free. And once again, you want to pay a lot of money for something that you can go to OpenRouter for? That's my take.
Yeah, I mean, OpenRouter is not free either, but I don't know what the difference is in costs. So this was pretty cool. Excited to release Polar, our agent RL rollout infra for real-world harnesses, be it Codex, Claude Code, OpenClaw, Hermes, or your self-made one. Polar takes your harnesses directly as training environments without code change. So you basically can use your harness as a training environment to RL. Cognition introduced on May 18th. Devin Auto Triage, your AI first responder with long-term memory. It can monitor incoming bugs, alerts, and incidents, investigate them, and come back with context, next steps, or a PR. Again, you're going to see more autonomous acting agents. This is a step in that direction. It can act based on other triggers, not just you asking it to act. I think we'll see more things like this, not just from cognition, but everyone is going to be doing this, including us. And that's it. That's the show. If you haven't already, go give us a star on GitHub. We appreciate that. Mastra-AI/Mastra. Do the whole thing. Like, subscribe, follow at Mastra on X, follow at SMThomas3, which is me on X, or at Abhi Iyer on X. Say what's up, say hello. We'll hang out and chat with you there. Any final words before we close off?
Farewell, cowboys.
All right. See you, partner.